Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Pure Ambition Podcast. Today, I welcome on my good buddy, David Stark, who's the host of the Athletes Podcast, which is a top 1% podcast where he uncovers the strategies, secrets, and insights that drive peak performers. He's recorded over 200 episodes with some of the world's best athletes, nutritionists, trainers, coaches, leaders, and the show is truly having a profound impact. I had the opportunity to do a swap cast with David a couple weeks ago while we were in Cape Cod, and so this conversation was very back and forth. I shared a lot about my story. He shared a lot about his story, more specifically why he started the Athletes Podcast, how he's been able to grow and scale it to a top 1% podcast while still managing a 9-to-5 job, the habits, routines, and rituals that he's taken away from interviewing some of the world's top performers, and why he believes that following your passion will lead you to a life better than you could ever imagine. I also got to share a little bit about my content creation process, how I got started in this whole journey of podcasting, creating YouTube videos, creating content online, my mission and why behind everything I do, a little more insight into my cardiac arrest incident that happened about a month and a half ago, the perspective change that I've had in life since then, and then we both go into advice we'd have for the next generation. This was an epic conversation. Like I said, it was a swap cast, so you can also watch it over on David's channel. Make sure to go check that out at the link in the show notes and check out some of his other amazing guests that he's had on. And before we dive into it, if you guys could take a second to subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow so we can reach and impact more people. The ultimate goal is to positively impact the lives of 100 million. We can only do it together. Love you guys. Now let's dive into it.
Hey, let's get
Cheers, buddy.
Let's get a little cheers, actually.
Cheers. A little black coffee.
Little black cup of Joe.
A little swap cap.
There we go. Swapcast. Can't beat it. Outside.
Grounding.
Grounding.
Getting
Oh my
A
gosh.
little sun exposure. We won't show. We won't do the sun sack yet, but
No comment.
yeah.
No comment.
Dude, Cape Cod brings everything out of the boys. You know,
Oh my gosh.
training camp.
Training camp.
It's been legit.
It's been legit. You came across the country into another country.
Across the
to be
continent.
here. Across the continent.
That was a mish.
I'm not gonna lie. You said BC, British Columbia, and I thought that was the East Coast side of Canada. And then I realized I was wrong. But we got a nice Canadian geography lesson.
I was gonna say geography. You're probably not worried about what's going on up north, down in the south, eh?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down in Texas. I'm a long way from the Great White North. But what is crazy, dude, is I'm still blown away by the fact that 90% of the Canadian population lives within 100 kilometers of the border. That's just absolutely absurd.
Some fun Canadian facts for you folks. Just tuning in here to the Athletes or Pure Ambition Pod.
Athletes and Pure Ambition collab. I love it.
It's long overdue. Probably
overdue.
like what, a year and a half at least.
Yeah, about that.
Because we
Connected on LinkedIn.
yeah, and then Instagram, and then
Yeah.
Bobby,
Yeah.
who's brought us out here to his spot, Cape. It's legit.
And it's so funny, podcasters too. Like we just know. Oh yeah, you know that guy. You know that girl. Oh, of course. Like
Most connected people in the world. And
amazing.
the war on oats. It's
Yeah.
a thing, you
Yeah.
know, bringing Louisa and Nicola into the picture, you know.
yeah, wild.
I don't know where we gotta. Where do we start for this, man?
Where do we start? So I mean, dude, why podcasting for you? What was it for you that made you want to start podcasting? And then I guess I'll kind of just share like my story of why I started doing it too.
Yeah, because you just experienced a recent health thing, so we got to dive into that.
Yeah, we'll dive into that for sure.
But it's interesting because we started podcasting probably around the same age-ish.
Mhm.
Maybe you might have started a little bit earlier than me, age-wise. I got the jump start right after school. Just realized that I still wanted to be involved in the sport world. Still wanted to chop it up with athletes. Knew that I had more to deliver to the world than going to work a corporate job 9 to 5. My boy Gary V was preaching podcasts during that time, 2019. Finished up the undergrad of sport management at Brock University and was like, you know what? I feel like I know enough people to at least start a pod, chop it up, talk to people locally in Niagara. And it was sick because it was just like 45-minute conversations with people, learning way more, doing some research. And then COVID hit. So went from virtual in person pod that was local because, you know, didn't really have a travel budget at the time. And then everything virtual once COVID hit. So then it became global. You could reach out to anyone, power of social media. And then, man, been rolling ever since, once a week. And I just felt like I wasn't good enough to go to any sport professionally, but I played everything growing up. So I was like, I know enough to chop it up, learn from these people. And I really wanted to make sure that I shared with the next gen the lessons that I wish I knew growing up. Like at 15, 12, when I wanted to become a professional hockey goalie or make it to the PGA Tour, like I wish I had conversations, interviews with the best athletes in the world to learn from. And, it wasn't out there. So I'm like, screw it, let's make it happen. If no one else is going to do it, why not do it ourselves, right?
What's been the biggest struggle that you've faced along the way?
It's a good question. Balancing everything. I think spinning a couple plates in the air, not letting anything fall. Having relationships, not as many, like close friendships when you're bouncing around North America trying to podcast. People don't necessarily have the same aspirations. I'm sure you feel that. We were talking about that earlier, just around like, if you want to achieve extraordinary things, you have to put in extraordinary work, and not everyone shares those same aspirations. Put it that way.
All right, so I want to just like piggyback off of that. So you mentioned like just balance, and I think for me, you think about the word balance too. You think about in the word like homeostasis. It's bringing the body back into balance. Like you're always
Check
what
out
was
our
that? Oh,
fly.
you got a nice fly
A
and
little extra protein.
well, yeah, exactly. Cricket protein, baby. So you think about balance, like you think about homeostasis, and like you're constantly just trying to bring the body back into balance. But I mean, you've interviewed some of the top high performers in the world, right? They don't get to where they're at through balance. Like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, was my biggest inspiration. He talks about in the book The Mamba Mentality how there was no balance. It was, wake up at 3 a.m. and go train from 4 to 6 and come back and then train again from like 8 to 10, and like his life was completely out of balance. You look at Michael Jordan, he was completely out of balance. And like these are obviously like the goats, but you've interviewed still like a ton of professional athletes and high performers. There is seasons of imbalance
Mm-hmm.
that allows them to excel. And this is me from like my perspective, and my take on balance is like there are seasons where you need to push to get to a point where you can then come back to balance. Because you think about these athletes too, like there is a time period where they go back and they do find balance. Like Michael Jordan even talked about after a season he would take like what like a month,
At
and
least.
at least a
Wouldn't
month
touch a ball.
wouldn't touch a ball, wouldn't do anything, and then he would come back and he would get right back to work. So do you feel like you've been able to kind of navigate through like seasons of imbalance a little better as you've been doing it for coming up on like what 4 years now?
Yeah, like we just celebrated our 4th. I didn't really celebrate. I'm bad at celebrating like anniversaries,
Yeah.
birthdays now. I just like I get a little anxiety around it because I'm like, shit, I wish I was doing more. But yeah, the seasons thing, I've heard you talk about that on social, and I definitely have tried to embrace that. I think it's also trying to share that with others and ensure that you like maintain the relationships you do have with family, friends, and I'm of the perspective that like I can go hard season of imbalance and still I try and make sure that that's a point of emphasis is still like Phoenix, our producer, editor, but I haven't been the best boyfriend in the world over the past 2 years necessarily at all times, but I try and make up for that at other moments, and I think the more you can do that and have people understand like, hey, this is only a moment in time, and at a certain point, like you and I, we've both realized the power of compounding is crazy. And you know what? In a couple years, we're not going to have to send 20 emails every day outbound trying to source out new people to come on the pod. It's going to be the inverse, right? And you're going to have inbound. But that doesn't happen overnight. And people realize that, hey, like, sometimes you got to put a lot of effort in at the beginning to reap the rewards in the long term. So I don't know if that answers your question. I look back at like a guy like Mitchell Hooper, world's strongest man. We chatted with him in Barrie, Ontario, and at Athletic Culture Gym, shout out to them. And he said something similar. He's like, man, no one else has done what we're doing right now. Like no one else has lifted the weight that he's putting up. And so no one actually knows what the long-term effects are going to be of that. And until you actually go and do it, you don't know what you're capable of achieving. So until, we interview all of the goats, until we feature we're not going to know what we're capable of doing and building. And I think that's the power of the unknown is what's so exciting about it.
I love that, dude. So something that just came to mind was like one thing I've been really into is just like how you put yourself into like a frame of mind, or how you prepare to like be at your best in whether it's competition, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a meeting, whatever else. Like like we all have points in our lives where we need to show up like at our best,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's so interesting. I've always been very fascinated by athletes and high performers and like what they do to prime themselves to perform, whether it just be for a training session, whether it be for a game, whether it just be for like their day to day. How you prepare like ultimately dictates like how you're going to be able to show up. Like for this, we got up and we got our water, we got our electrolytes, we got our movement in. Like I got my walk in, you got a little bit of run in.
We got our black coffee.
We got our black coffee like that. I got like a couple minutes of just deep breathing, like just to put myself into the present moment. Like that for me, like I know that I can't just like be on my phone scrolling before I hop on like a conversation with somebody. Like I'm not going to be able to show up. Just like if I'm about to go for a long run, I'm not going to like eat 5 donuts because I'm not going to be able to perform my best on that. So long-winded question, but like what have been some of the really interesting ways that people have shared with you on like how they're able to kind of prime themselves to perform at their best?
Yeah, I think Alex Hormozy has this great quote, and he talks about like, how people underestimate the power of 20 minutes of preparation, whether that's professionally, whether that's socially, whether that's for a podcast, whether that's for working out. Like people don't realize that those 10, 15, 20 minutes prior to doing something are integral. Like even the Wim Hof Frozen Alive Yes Theory video we were watching last night, like you have to mentally prepare yourself for whatever you're going to go after, whatever you're looking to achieve, and you can set your intention in a positive or a negative way. And I think the biggest thing I've learned after 192 episodes is that everyone in some way, shape, or form has their own routine. Some people like drinking water. Alex hasn't sucked back any of the supplements we have here at training camp, but that guy's biohacking to the 10th degree, right? Like, and other guys are juicing back fucking creatures of habit and every other substance that they can. And so, I mean, I think the biggest thing I've learned is that no one person is the same as another, and everyone has their own kind of specific routine that helps with them. And if they haven't found it yet, then you should be trying to search out what other people are doing. But if you found it, there's no reason, like, don't fix what's not broken, right? But I got to ask what your routine is, because you've got a couple different, and I'm like flabbergasted when you talk about Kobe being your guy as a football player. I was thinking maybe like a Ray Lewis.
Yeah. So routine in what sense?
Let's start with pre-pod and like your morning routine, actually, and even like your content creation, because I think that's one of the underestimated things that you've got going on right now, is the fact that you're creating some sick content that people appreciate.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you. So morning routine looks a little different now, since I obviously like I can't work out, or I can't train, and I can't run. So my mornings have shifted a little bit. My days have shifted a little bit, and I'm putting a lot more emphasis on like mindfulness, spirituality, and just working on my like mental and spiritual fitness, rather like while I can't work on my physical fitness as much. So I'm walking a lot, but like the first thing I do when I wake up is like one, I just like give a big I rip my mouth tape off.
Yes,
I rip my mouth tape off.
Yeah, you both.
I rip my mouth tape off, and then I smile. I just give a big old like smile, and I just like I'm so grateful for life.
Yeah.
And then I get up and I crush electrolytes with like 24 ounces of water. It's just good for the body, good for the brain, good for the organs. Like just the best thing you can do for yourself in the morning is just crush a big glass of water with some electrolytes. And then I immediately put my shoes on, and then I go out for a morning walk. And there I listen to a daily devotional, which takes about, 10, 15 minutes or whatnot. And then I pray. I ask God to help me on my mission, allow me to hear what he's trying to tell me and see what he's trying to open my eyes to be aware of what he wants me to see. and just ask for help, because I know that like there's all these things that I want to accomplish in life, and there's a mission that he has for me, but I can't do it alone. And I just ask him to allow me to be aware of the things that he's putting in my life. And then I just kind of walk, and some days I'll walk in silence and I'll just try to just appreciate nature.
Yeah.
And other days I will respond to DMs or texts, or maybe if there's something that I need to do. A lot of times I'll send out like 20 voice messages to random followers
Nice.
of mine, just like, or just random people who left a comment on one of my posts, just saying, hey, I really appreciate you leaving a comment. Like, hope you have a great day. Something as simple as that
Yeah.
has
Goes a long
goes a
way.
long way, and it's just taught me that the little things are really what matter. You mentioned compounding, so it's really the little things that compound, not like the big amazing things that you do on like a daily basis, just like the little things.
Sets and reps.
And then once I get back from my walk, I've been doing like a 20-minute meditation. And granted, you don't have to do all this to like have a great morning routine. This is just like, for me, this sets me up for success and allows me to be at my best. And I also like get up early and do these things. But whereas before it would be like boom, up, like water, coffee, out the door, going for a run, like, and then like back computer, just boom, boom, boom. And it's been like a challenge of like, okay, I'm not exercising like 2 to 3 hours a day, so I have a little bit more time to put towards like doing the inner work. And obviously I had the heart thing happen, which we'll get into, but I'm still just trying to work through that like emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like allowing me to do that. Some days I'll open up my journal, some days I won't. Like some days I'm getting right into work, like, so
Yeah.
that's like my daily routine. But like some days I'm like, man, I don't have time to do all this like right now, so I got to get some stuff done. So other times I'll just quick meditation, like, or quick, I'll do like 10 air squats and then get to it. Just depends on the day.
Yeah.
My content creation process is interesting, where it's really kind of evolved, but now it's a lot of times I just start with, well, really I try to be like a week or two ahead. So a lot of times it's on like a Saturday, I will go to like a coffee shop like in the afternoon. I usually get lunch. I try to get lunch with a friend or somebody new every Saturday.
I love that part. You
Yeah,
mentioned it.
yeah. And so like after that, I'll usually go to a coffee shop, and that's where I'm usually feeling very like creative and energized after that.
Yeah.
So I try to like leverage the time where I'm being creative and not like force it.
Mm-hmm.
So I notice the times where I have more creative energy, and so I'll go to a coffee shop. A lot of times I try to go to a new one too, where I'll sit at a new table. Like, I'm just always trying to introduce nuance into my life.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that has like, I gotta go to the same coffee shop and sit at the same like, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I gotta go to a different coffee shop and sit at a different place every time.
Feel that.
And right there, I kind of have like themes that I stick to in terms of content. And shout out, you about to rip another?
The boys said it's good for you.
There you go. It is. It is good for you.
It's the first weekend I've ever tried it. I'm getting exposed to all these.
The tones, baby.
Shipping stuff to Canada. Canada's a tough place to get our products in. I had to get a PO box down in the States just so the brands send it.
That's smart. There you go.
Perks of being 5 minutes away from the border.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, get back into it. Sorry, I interrupted.
So, no, it's all good. So content for me, like, so when I'm at the shop, or the coffee shop rather, I like to start with just a blank sheet of paper. Or like, for me, it's like a template that I have on Notion.
Okay.
And for me, it's like I have 3 things. It's the hook, or what's gonna draw them in, and then I have like a place for like a rough outline, and then like I script out what the video is gonna look like. So it's not every piece of content is gonna go like that. And other times I'm like, I just get a hit of inspiration throughout the weekend. I'm like, I just have to film this.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really just think about, one, I try to create content that is educational, inspirational, and entertaining. I really just try to bring as much value as I can too. The more I've simplified my content and the more value I've tried to bring to people, the better it's been received, and the more cool people I've been able to connect with, the more my content resonates, I think, with. My mission in life is to inspire and empower 100 million people to become the happiest, healthiest, most fulfilled version of themselves. My content has to align with that.
Mhm.
But also, like, we're reading the book The Creative Act, The Creative Act, by Rick Rubin right now, and I've had to like implement discipline for myself with content so that I can be like more creative. So for me, it's like that Saturday afternoon is my creative like flow time, where I'm just like, I'm having fun, I'm brainstorming ideas, I'm seeing what works. I'm starting to outline stuff. And then, Tuesday for me is more of Sunday is like my reset day.
Yeah.
Monday is my more like administrative, like I do all the stuff that I don't really want to do. We do it all on Mondays. And then Tuesday mornings, when I'm more like I have good energy, I feel like I'm more creative in the morning. That's when like I'll either finish outlining all these pieces. I'll get to like batching all the content. Tuesday's just more of like a content creation day for me. Thursday's more of like a podcast day where I'm interviewing people. So like I know like, okay, Thursday, like, I gotta do something in the morning that's gonna allow me to be more like energetic and social and things like that. So for me, it's just been like, how do I create a piece of content that one is going to fulfill me, that is going to bring value to others, and that ultimately like I'm something that I'm proud of. So those are kind of the areas of content that I try to do. And then when it comes to like podcasting, I try to schedule most of them in the morning because I know I'm more mentally sharp, and also like I haven't had any of these delicious saps or slates or anything like that because like I do feel more sharp when I fast.
Right.
So like that's why I haven't had anything yet. But for me, it's like I know the like kind of states of the consciousness that like I need to be in for certain areas of life, and then other certain areas where like I do like other things. But that's kind of for me like my morning routine, my content creation process. I try to just take into account like, hey, when do I feel most creative?
Yeah.
When do I not like when like I can edit like at night or like in the afternoon or whenever, but like when I need to really be like thinking about creating this piece of content and like how can I create the highest quality piece possible, it's like I need to leverage the time I'm in there. And obviously there's going to be times where you just need to get it done. But for me, as much as you can, like, and I would tell anybody, like, whatever it is in your life, just try to figure out for you when the best time to do things is. Like, I have friends who, like, they can't do anything creative until after, like, 10 p.m. at night, right?
Isn't it wild?
It's so wild. But, like, we all have different chronotypes. We all have different genetic makeup. So, like, whatever you need to do to just put yourself into those, like, states of creativity or productivity, whatever else it is, like, just notice, like, when you feel most energized, like, when you have the most energy, attention, focus, and just like lean into doing those at those certain times.
So key, because people go through and like the standardized 9 to 5, which you and I both kind of still do. And like that's what I admire about you is the fact that you're able to create content, rip the pod, still have like a 9 to 5 gig that you're ripping, or maybe it's a little bit more flexible schedule wise, but you've got a full-time job, right? Like, that's not easy to do. And if anyone's aware of it, I'm aware too. But I think where I really am curious is like this new perspective that you've had over the past month since your cardiac arrest. Like, were you as grateful were you waking up every morning smiling? Were you doing those things prior to this, or was this a catalyst, like that inflection moment for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I've been somebody who I was the kind of things that I talk about, like I would do them, but not to the level of like consistency or with the level of intention that I'm now bringing to them. Like it would more so be just like to check a box a lot of days.
I heard this was good on a podcast, so I'm going to do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Or like, I'm trying to strengthen my relationship with God. Like I'm praying every day, but like am I just like praying for things, or am I like actually like being intentional about like, no, I'm trying to like make an impact on this world. I'm trying to like actually be like a leader in society. And leaders in society, like, they do everything with like utmost intention. And for me, I feel like I was doing all of these things, but now like I have a new level of gratitude. Like I have a new level of appreciation for each and every conversation I'm having, like this experience of being out here on Cape Cod with everybody, like those moments that a lot of times I was super grateful. Like I'm not going to say like I struggled with gratitude or anything like that before, because I didn't, but it is just like amplified for me, like my appreciation for the human experience, in the life that we have, because you always hear that, like, like appreciate every moment. Like it could be taken away from you at any second. But for me, like it actually was. Like I actually, like I lost my pulse. Like I died. I went to the other side and I got brought back through CPR. And when I really think about that, the more it's funny, the more like things come across your plate as well, where it's like, whoa, it just resonates with you more. Like you like a song hits a little bit different. You hear those lyrics a little bit different, or a piece of scripture like just resonates with you like a little bit more, and it just makes you watch a video and it's like, dang, like yeah, it's life is all about like how we interpret things too. So for me, it's just been like a new level of like attention and awareness that I bring to every single day, and like just a newfound sense of gratitude. Like, oh man, like, I should probably call my dad today. I should probably call my brother today. I should probably like shoot my sister a text. It's like I don't wait. I'm like, I just do those things now because when you have something come across your mind, like again, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night now with like a thought or an idea, and I just immediately I'll run over to my phone and like I'll type it up in my notes before I go back to sleep, or like if I feel like literally I need to text this person in the middle of the night, like I will, like, hey dude, I just woke up in the middle of the night and I was just thinking about you, like just wanted to say I'm super grateful for you. Like sounds weird, but like when you live your life with like this profound sense of gratitude and also like presence, but also like a sense of urgency too. Like I feel like I just have a newfound sense of urgency, and that like my mission, it just like has like solidified like, hey, you had this idea of like what you thought you were supposed to be doing, and like this is just like a reminder that you don't have time. You don't have as much time as you think. Like you need to act on it no matter how little it is each and every day.
Yeah, and you're not just going through the motions anymore.
Correct.
It's you're physically right where your feet are, and you're experiencing every moment. Is Gary Vaynerchuk, again, second time I'm bringing him up. It's like, is it micro patience, macro speed, or macro speed, micro patience?
It's macro. It's macro. Yeah, something like that. But it's like you're always thinking about like I always say like macro vision, micro action. Which I don't know if that's Gary Vee, but like for me, I'm always thinking in the macro, but like what can I do on the micro level today that's going to move the needle forward?
Yeah, and it's so necessary. Yo, should we do a Saps kickstart for Pelkey here? Since he's
oh, come on, son. One-handed
just
too.
because he's walking by, I had to. Had to spill a little on my shirt too. Get those electrolytes in. And what's been your kind of learnings over the past, because you're at 2.5, 3 years for Pure Ambition. I know you've had
started in April of 2020.
And you were a sophomore?
I was a junior.
Right. And what got you into the pod game? Because that's during school.
Yeah. So I played football in college at Dickinson, and during the off season I was involved in Red Devil Sports Network, which is our sports media club, and so I didn't want to do the camera. I didn't want to be there at the like filming or like taking pictures. Like I didn't care about that. I wanted to broadcast. I wanted to like I actually thought like I wanted to be like a sports broadcaster.
Okay.
Even though I studied international business and economics, but because I went to a liberal arts school, so we didn't have those like you couldn't major in like sports management or business admin. Like it was international business, and like you be a part of Red Devil Sports Network. So I started spring of my freshman year broadcasting lacrosse games.
Okay.
I never played lacrosse, but I just loved the sport.
You, Colin, and Samir.
Yeah, right. Okay, exactly, right. So I've always loved lacrosse, even as a baseball player too. Like it was weird because like baseball players and lacrosse players don't get along, but I always loved watching lacrosse more than I like watching baseball, and I played baseball. But I started broadcasting and I just loved it. Like I was the color guy. I didn't like being the play-by-play, but I liked being the color guy.
Yeah.
And I would do like the post-game interviews with the players and whatnot. My college team had a really good lacrosse men's lacrosse team, and I would do the women's too. But the men's lacrosse team was really good. They won the conference for my freshman year. And so I just loved that. And my buddy Miles, shout out to him, he lived on my floor freshman year, and he was like, dude, like you're really good in front of the mic, like and in front of the camera. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast, YouTube channel, like creating content? Because he was creating content on. He's the one who got me into Gary Vee.
Yeah.
He was trapping sneakers out of his dorm room. Like
Okay.
now he has like a warehouse, Amazon FBA business, like crushes it. But he's the one who got me like into creating content into this whole world.
Shit.
And so I was like, yeah, maybe I will, or maybe I won't, or whatnot. But I kind of just like, I was really afraid of what my roommates would say or what my friends or family would say. And I was just like, I don't have the equipment. I don't have the money to do this. I don't have the time for that, whatever.
How'd you get over that fear?
I just did it. So
Okay.
it wasn't until COVID happened though.
Okay.
And I also like got into broadcasting the basketball games too. Like that was just really fun for me. So it was like football in the fall, basketball, lacrosse. I would broadcast in the spring and in the winter. I was in a pretty dark place during COVID. I had a really bad back injury that like was keeping me out of training with my team and whatnot, and just mentally, physically, spiritually, like I was just all out of whack. Just because it was like I felt like I couldn't get better, and I was just in pain all the time, and it just was a downward spiral. So I was at home, and I was like drinking beers with my buddies on Zoom, and I woke up one morning and I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was just like really unhappy with the person I was looking at. And so I looked at myself and you're wasting your potential. You have so much more to give to this world. You have so much more to offer. And like I truly felt that in my gut and in my heart. And so like I just said yesterday was the last day where like I'm done not taking full ownership of my life. Like this point forward, like I'm taking full ownership of my life. I'm going to get myself healthy again. I didn't know what that meant. That day too, my friend Miles sent me a post by Gary Vee, and there was like, you'll never regret the things that you try and like fail at, but you'll always regret the things that you never try. For me, it was like, I got to start a podcast, and I had no idea like what it was going to be on. I didn't know what I was going to call it, whatever, but like I just started. And I just created, I texted Miles. I was like, dude, how do I create a podcast? And he was like, Anchor. I was like, okay, cool. So like, I was like, what do I call it? And first thing that popped in my head, I was like, Days with Dom. All right, cool. I was like, we're going to rock with that. And I knew in my head, like, this isn't what it's going to be called forever, but I need something to start with.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, cool. I have an idea. I have a name. Like I set everything up. I recorded like a quick 10-minute episode saying like, so much darkness in the world. And I want these conversations and these podcasts to just bring a little bit of light. So I was interviewing everybody. Like I was interviewing like comedians, artists, athletes, just like literally any entrepreneurs, anybody and everybody to just pick their brains. And I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
Because I got to talk with so many people from different walks of life, and ultimately realize like, yo, I love this all the health and wellness conversations that I was having. And it really made me want to dive deeper into that. Not forced me, but like it inspired me to get my personal training certification, my nutrition coaching certification. I was like, I want to help people feel the way that I feel, like in like with what health and wellness is able to do. Diet, lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, sunlight, sleep, meditation, breathwork, yoga, like all the things.
Yeah.
And so I ended up taking a gap semester in my senior year of college, my senior spring. I was literally one day away. I was literally about to pack up my car and head back to campus for my last semester. And something was telling me just like, don't do it.
Whoa.
And so I literally, without telling my parents, filled out the leave of absence form, withdrew from college from that semester, and told my parents like, I'm not going back this semester. They're like, you're dropping out of college? I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Just hit a pause.
But I just hit a pause. And I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't have an internship. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. But all I knew is if I would have gone through that semester, graduated, got a corporate gig, whatever, I would have looked back with regrets. And like, I don't want to live my life with any regrets. I felt like I had more to give, both as a student, both as an athlete, both as a leader. There was so much more like I felt like I had to give. And so I went balls to the wall, training as hard as I possibly could in like the smartest way I possibly could too. And like, I was just like, things will work itself out. Like that, the next couple of days, I got a text from a friend of mine who was like, hey, I'm looking for a digital marketing intern for this, the next couple of months. Like, let me know if you know anybody. And he didn't know that I wasn't going back to school. And I was like, hey, like I would actually love that. So I got to do that digital marketing internship, which him and I hit it off. We actually started a summer sports camp for kids.
Sick.
Which we just had our third year of that. Actually, like I was still doing it this year. So that gave me like a little bit of money that I was able to like, but also like train, get my like lifts in the morning and like my speed work and agility in the afternoon. And like, I just got so like dialed into all that. I was like doing the podcast at the same time. So it just gave me a semester.
Yeah.
I was studying I was able to like train, study for my certifications, and then also like work this internship. So I was able to have this time period of like thinking about and trying different things of like, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want this life to look like? Whereas if I didn't do that, I would probably be sitting in a cubicle somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the podcast opened up these doors and avenues, and now I'm a co-founder of a tech company. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like I'm creating content, I'm working with different brands. Like it's crazy the doors and the opportunities that have opened up just by having the podcast. So for me, the reason I keep doing it is like this. Like I love this right here. Like I get lit up, I get so energized, and the fact that like somebody's gonna listen to this and hopefully take something away from it. If you take one thing away from it and go apply it to your life, and that is amazing that like you and I can have the impact on people. So that's why I keep going.
Dude, there's so many similarities between you and I, and just like hearing you explain what your past couple of years have looked like. Like I was MC at our Brock Badgers hockey, basketball events, volleyball. I did some color commentating. So that I didn't know you were doing. We had that same path there. I found it. I'm like, dude, this getting on the mic's fun, sharing, getting that excitement going, getting the people going, as Ricky Bobby would say, or whoever else that quote was from. But and then even, once COVID hit, I also basically eliminated alcohol. Didn't have any boys around in the crib back in St. Catharines, and you just look at the difference. Even just like I heard you talking about, like faces are bloated. You're like, the difference when you eliminate those toxins from your body and you start appreciating the fact that you can wake up in the morning and you're not hungover or whatever the case may be. And I mean, there's a time and place for that at university. I think
100%.
I think
I needed that time in my life. I'm actually like making a post about this today. Is like I am glad I had that time in my life, because it also like once you get out of that stage, it makes you like, all right, I got it. You got it out of your system,
yeah.
right? But also like I can go back and like legitimately put myself into that state of like how I felt like every weekend or every day even, and like the mental clarity and just like appreciation and optimism and like quality of life that I have now is so much higher than when I was just filling my body with toxins. I'm sure you agree with that too.
It's just ever present, and the more you realize it, the deeper you dive into the rabbit hole, and you start crushing electrolytes in the morning, and you start mouth taping, and you start putting on nasal strips. You're like, oh man, like you start opening up some doors, and you're like, okay, there's a lot that I could be doing to optimize, biohack, whatever it is. But it's ultimately, you don't know how good you're supposed to feel until you start doing those things, and then you recognize like, oh, I'm way more effective and efficient at doing these things when I have a good rest, when I'm able to be hydrated and all those things. So the one thing that also resonated with me was the fact that you didn't have the name solidified and it transitioned to Pure Ambition. With the Athletes podcast, I was like struggling at a certain point. I'm like, man, I pigeonholed to athletes, and I went separate because there's niches where you can go lax hockey, and I was like, there's already so much of that. Like I want to go broad so that it's maybe not effective in the short term at gaining a following, but in the long term, everyone's going to recognize a Serena Williams, a Michael Jordan, a Tiger Woods when you get those kind of athletes on, and it's just building those blocks along the way. But I also have realized over the past 4 years that everyone's an athlete. Every human being is an athlete to some degree or another, and some people maybe are farther along on their athletic journey than others, but entrepreneurs, athletes, everyone's a high performer to some degree, and I think you've found that out as well with Pure Ambition. And that just was the cherry on top when you were sharing kind of, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because it's these conversations that get us fired up and that you learn so much from. And if you can pull one piece from that person and have one person who's listening right now be impacted positively, then we've won.
For
right?
sure. Yeah, I wanna touch on real quick too. Like, you've been traveling for the past like a little over a year, right? Like you've been living that nomad lifestyle. I know you have a new position that you've been doing for your 9 to 5 work and grinding away at that, and just being able to continue staying consistent with the podcast and doing a lot of them in person or whatnot. So we talk about being able to show up at like our best physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all that what are some of the things that you do when you're outside of like, your typical environment that allow you to be at your best every day?
I go back to the electrolytes in the morning, the mouth tape at night. As crazy as it sounds, like those are the two staples that I just like I can't live without. Having a dark room, that's again those are like bookending your nighttime and daytime. I like to have tea at night with the girl from 9 to 10 before we go to bed. That's like our nice. Make sure I put the computer electronics away. But every day is different. The past year, we haven't slept in the same bed for longer than like 1 or 2 weeks at a time, which is pretty wild to think about. And I'm sure like I'm not resting as well as we probably could be when you're sleeping in different environments. But I think having just those consistent things to rely upon, like the tea, like the mouth tape, whatever, insert any of those kind of biohack things. Those are the rituals. And I'm not a spiritual person to the degree that you are, but I've also noticed that seems like a ton of athletes have obviously incorporated it, and religion's something that I've definitely looked at potentially exploring further, because I think that's another thing that could help maintain that consistency despite maybe not having it with our surrounding environment. But I think it's part of the seasons thing that you talked about, right?
100%.
And it's just a season of our life right now. We're going to look back in 5 years when we have mortgages, house, kids, whatever, and it's like, that's, we would not have been able to experience what we have over the past year if we had, settled down after school, chilled in one space. But I also think that the podcast again is one thing that's allowed for us to travel, see these incredible places, a ton of the US, a ton of Canada, and I would not trade that for the world. And I think being able to have a partner like Phoenix be a part of that has helped as well. I don't think I could have done it I know I could not have done it on my own, actually. And I think that for anyone who's trying to do something, start their own podcast, build a company, it's really hard to do on your own. Like, and I think having a support network, like I'm super grateful for my parents, didn't appreciate it as much, during school. Like you said, oh, I should probably call, text them. And I'll be honest, I was not good at keeping up with them. I part of the reason why I left BC, Vancouver, moved out to Toronto was like I wanted to become independent, do my own thing after high school. And I realized that, there's a reason why people stay at home and have their support network, but there's also a reason people leave, and you need to learn along the way what works best for you. And I think being able to come back, realize, oh, there are good aspects of being at home, spending time with family. It's a learning experience from top to bottom, and no one's perfect. And if anyone out there is claiming that they have the perfect life or that it's probably just on social media. And I think that's what I appreciate about podcasts, is that you get to dive deeper and ask some real questions and find out whether that person's just a surface level success or whether they're actually deep down happy with who they are.
Who is your dream guest?
I look, like I mentioned, someone like Serena Williams, a Tiger Woods, a Michael Jordan, a Wayne Gretzky. Those are the stereotypical answers from the goats of the athletic world. I honestly, I want to chat with everyone I possibly can. So one of the things that I've, past 4 years, it's been a lot of people our age and our generation, at least at the beginning, and now it's trying to spread out the age, the demographics that we're hitting, and make sure that I have conversations with like a Bobby Orr or, people who are aging out, and, having like a guy like Kobe, for instance, rest in peace. I'm now like kicking myself that even when he was around, if I had the opportunity to have him on the podcast to help him spread, obviously he's a global impact already, but with the mission of educating, entertaining, and inspiring the next gen, want to make sure that if I have a platform that we've built to be able to share and spread more of what these incredible people like you, dude, like there's no reason why people wouldn't be willing to come on to share what their message and what they're doing. And I think that's where in the back of my mind, I have no qualms or queries about reaching out to anyone when they are a high performer, an athlete, an entrepreneur, because I think, hey, we're trying to do this. We're trying to build an incredible community. We're trying to help that next gen, whether it's their parents listening, their grandparents, the kids themselves. Like we said, if one person is impacted positively, it's worth doing. And it's 45 minutes of a conversation that I would have wanted to had it already, right? Like we were ripping it on the ferry as we were eating oysters. Like I think for me, to answer your question, the dream guest, it's whoever wants to come on and is willing to share their story and is aspiring to educate, entertain, and inspire.
Love that.
What about you? What about for you?
Yeah, so Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
Yes.
Have you read his book?
I have
Green
3
Light.
times.
3 times.
3 times.
I audiobooked and
I audiobooked it 3 times. Yeah.
Jeez.
I haven't read it cover to cover, but I've audiobooked it 3 times.
You 3 times.
3 times.
A lot of trips from Philly to Austin, eh?
Yeah, right. So yes, sir. Ever seen Brother Bear, the movie?
No.
Well, there's like these 2 Canadian moose, yeah,
Meese?
meese. There's 2 meese, and they always say A. So anytime I hear A, I just think of those moose, mice, meese, whatever.
I could remind you of them.
But yeah, Matthew McConaughey is a guy who I see, like, the way that he has lived his life is just very inspiring to me. And there's just so many really golden nuggets that I took away from that book, and kind of just, he's come out with this new thing called like The Art of Living, and just really, really resonates with me, and kind of the way he looks at just trying to collect like experiences throughout his life and trying to, leave a legacy. He's just a guy who, I don't like to say if, but like it's like when I get the chance to talk to him, there's a lot of questions that I have for him, and I know that we will have an epic conversation. There's a ton, but he's the first one that comes to mind.
What's the first question you're asking him?
First question. Oh, that's a good question.
As you ponder,
As I ponder,
the canoe. He takes the canoe around, right? That's his trailer. He brought that up to Squamish, which is in BC. If you haven't been, we'll go there.
I haven't.
The cheap
Never been to Canada.
Dude, first 100K at least, first 100 miles. Sorry, go ahead. What's your question?
The first question I would probably ask him is, if you could go back to, like, if you could go back and have a conversation with your 24-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give that person, that 24-year-old you? Probably would be the first thing. And I like when I'm podcasting, I always try to think of questions that like will make the guests like ponder a little bit too. Like when you ask me that, like whenever I ask a question that stumps the guest, I'm like, let's go. So like it's a great question that you asked right there. Is kudos to you as the host. But yeah, I would love to hear his perspective on where he was as a 24-year-old. That's how old I am right now, and see what advice he would have. Not advice he would have, but like what's one lesson that he would teach himself.
Was he in Australia? No, he wasn't in Australia. He was probably traveling in somewhere in Africa doing that journey, right? And he was wrestling the guys, and I remember that was a wild book. If anyone hasn't read Green Lights,
go read it. Please.
Yeah, that's that was a perspective shifter too. And just I think that's the other thing, is consuming content as a creator is an interesting topic, because you probably had to eliminate some of the stuff you accumulated during school as I did. When you look at things you've learned over the past 3 years doing the pod, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken from people? Any specific episodes, individuals stand out?
Yeah, I would say just from the process itself is like, don't be afraid of no. Because somebody come on the podcast, they say no. All right, whatever. Like
dude, that's the first thing in sales when they teach you. They're like, a no is, you want to hear a no because it's
supposed
something.
to be yes. To the next yes. So I would say, don't be afraid of no. the worst, like literally that's the worst they can say
Yeah.
is no. Um, the power of just like human connections, like people have everybody has a story to tell, and the fact that you have like a platform to share it, like that is such a powerful thing. Like the power of the internet is and the ability to bring people together is so amazing. And then the third thing is, conversation is art.
Mm.
It doesn't have to even be like a recorded conversation. Like every conversation I have, whether it's recorded or not, is a conversation that's never been had before. I take something new away from it, no matter who I'm talking to or no matter how long I'm talking to them for. And conversation is a form of art, and it's a skill that like you develop too. So those are probably the three biggest things for me. How about you?
Dude, that skill thing, like I actually that was part of the reason I started the podcast too. I didn't mention it, but I was like I can get better at communicating from this, and I can get better at having incredible interpersonal skills. And now I'm not intimidated chatting with anyone, whether it's the world's strongest man, the starting goalie for the LA Kings, a professional volleyball, like dude, they're just humans.
Bring it.
They're all, yo, why not? Yo, let's chop it up. I might get nervous, right? I get a little butterflies, but I think that's actually a good thing to have. If you're not nervous, then you don't care enough about what you're doing.
100%.
And I think that's like a learning that I've had. I was like, man, I'm gonna have 200 conversations recorded here over the next month or two, and the fact that I can look back, see the progress from episode 1, where I could barely formulate a question, I could barely hold a conversation, to 4 years later where hopefully I'm doing a little bit better than that, right? And hopefully people have learned along the way. But I think I want to touch on now one of the things that hasn't or wasn't recorded was your cardiac arrest. Let's talk about that. I know you've shared a bit. You got a little incision there. That whole experience, again, we talked at the beginning a bit, but I think I would love for you to share with the audience kind of what that's brought to you and the lessons that you've learned from going to the other side, as you put it.
Yeah, I'll keep it I'll keep this high level. I did a whole podcast episode talking about the experience, like
On Pure Ambition?
Pure Ambition.
Okay, so episode 130.
Yeah, 128, I think 128.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to hear the full story, go check that out. But long story short, I was at the track in Austin on a Saturday morning with a couple of my friends, and we were timing our miles. And after I ran the mile, I mean, I don't remember anything after the second lap, which is wild, but I finished the mile. I ran a 5:15, which
No big deal.
No big deal. No big deal. And I was the slowest out of the four of us. Like, come on, man. The guys were flying. And then I was struggling to bring my heart rate down. I was struggling to catch my breath. And like after it for the first couple of minutes, it wasn't like a typical cardiac arrest where you just like drop and you're out. For me, it was like I was struggling to get air in. I was struggling to bring my heart rate down. And then all of a sudden, man, this is crazy. Yeah, all of a sudden, I like came back to consciousness, my friends were saying. Because I don't remember any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yo, don't call the ambulance. Like, I'm good. I'm okay.
A little adrenaline.
Yeah, a little adrenaline boost back into it. And then all of a sudden, like, boom, I'm out. Like, went purple, lost pulse. There happened to be a firefighter that was there that saved my life through CPR. Rushed me to the hospital. I was on the ICU on a ventilator for 24 hours. Like, they got a hold of my mom. She flew in from Philly, like, got there that night. And, they didn't know if I was going to make it. But God gave me a second chance, and it was like 25, 26 hours after I was on the ventilator. They finally took me off, and I was able to breathe under my own power. I don't remember like anything from that whole day either. They transferred me to another hospital. Got tests by cardiologist, electrophysiologist, was in the hospital for a week. I got a subcutaneous defibrillator put in my side, and for those of you who don't know what that is, because I had no idea what that is, basically like in between my skin and my rib cage on my left side, there's a little device that is about half the size of your phone, and then from it, like there's little wires that go across my breastplate into the center of like kind of like where my sternum is, and then little wires that run up. I'm feeling the wire right now, goes up into my heart. So basically if my heart rate ever goes like above a certain point or like below a certain point, the device will shock me, and keep me make sure that I don't die
Yeah.
again. So that whole experience has just given me a whole new perspective on life, a whole newfound sense of gratitude. And even this weekend, I can't run with you guys, I can't work out, I can't do any of that kind of stuff. I am just so grateful for the opportunity to just still be here, to still be able to go out and go for a walk this morning. And I don't have any sort of brain damage. While they haven't figured out what caused it or anything like that, I know it's just like this season of my life is God trying to teach me something. And I'll get back to doing what I love in terms of health and fitness. But right now, I'm just appreciative of every single day. I honestly don't feel like I don't fear dying anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we all should. I know it's a hard say don't fear dying, but it for me has just been like, why would I spend another day doing something that wasn't going to positively impact the world and all those around me, and also like the people who are going to come after me?
Yeah.
All of my time every day is spent thinking about how I can amplify the impact that I can have during my time alive. So that's a short intro to a very very long story and journey that I'm still working through.
Yeah. Well, dude, kudos to you for being here, because that was a month ago, roughly now?
Yeah, just about a month.
Dude, to have gone from that point where you're, escaping death to out here with the boys, still making it happen, still getting your steps in. Like, I think, and you've touched on like being, whether you were towing with overtraining, and like maybe this is a way to bring back some of that quote unquote balance, maybe the seasons.
Yep.
I think like the fact that you're here doing what you're doing is a testament to who you are, and I think in the long term, it's a lesson. You learned, you're gonna be better for it, and people also are gonna understand, and this is your story to be able to tell now moving forward, right? And you're gonna be able to impact so many people positively. My dad had something similar happen just over a year ago. He has defib put in as well, the subcutaneous. I think his also has the little pacemaker in there too, just because of his age. But it's scary when you have that, whether it's yourself or someone with your family that goes through it. That was part of the reason, like, when I saw that, I was like, man, I shot you a quick text, and I know it can be surface level at times with people, and that's one of the other things with social media, that it's nice to be able to break down and actually have a conversation, because you don't see the emotions necessarily through a text, but you can see how deeply it impacted you. We've gone deep. We've educated a bit at the beginning. We entertained a little. I think this is an inspiring conversation for younger creators out there to maybe learn from two people who have created podcasts, have built brands, dude, from thin air. Like this is just time and effort, right? Reps and sets. And whether it's a 30-minute podcast, an hour and a half podcast, going for a long run, I think people hopefully will appreciate what we've chatted about today. What else do you want to talk about for Pure Ambition? I've covered kind of a bit about the Athletes podcast. Anything you want to share for that next gen? We wrap up by asking what our biggest piece of advice is for the next generation. Anything you got? What
Yeah.
else you got?
So I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
How about that? And then I'll ask at the end of all of my episodes. I ask my guests. What is, when you hear the words pure ambition, what does that mean to you, and how does it apply to your daily life?
Okay.
So I'll answer yours and you answer mine.
I love it.
So one piece of advice I would leave for the next generation is that you don't have time. And not saying that you have to figure out what your passion or your purpose is or whatever in life, but understand that time is so much more valuable than money. And when you can change your relationship with time, and when you can change your relationship with money, and understand that time is the most valuable currency that we have, the money will follow. Like, you always hear it, like, chase your passion and the money will follow. Like, I mentioned to you, like, I stopped podcasting because it was like, it's not making me money.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment I went back to, like, I just need to chase, like, what I need to do more of what I love to do, and that's create content, podcast, all that. The money then came as a byproduct of that. So just say, like, change your relationship with time, change your relationship with money, and understand that, you know, we all have value to bring to the world. If you can do something each day to get a little closer to finding your passion, a little closer to just uncovering what your mission in life is, do it, because the world needs it.
Damn. Dude, a couple years ago, I would have scoffed at that answer of, like, you don't have time. I think based on what you just experienced, it's super fitting. And I think there's hopefully value that people will take from that and learn that, there's only we have a finite amount of time on this earth, whether it's 25 years or 100 years. Hopefully it's the latter. You got to leave your mark somehow, right? And live every day like it's the last. What does pure ambition mean to me?
And how does it apply to your daily life?
When you said that, I was, like, internally wrapping my head around all the other episodes I'd listened to yours and what answers people have provided, and making sure I'm not going to provide the same boilerplate answer. But it's pursuing everything and anything that you want to achieve with the utmost passion and the utmost interest, curiosity. Like, it's in its purest sense, without using the word pure. It's like, go after whatever you want to achieve, because as cliche and as overused it is, if you put your mind to something, anything is possible.
100%.
I sitting in my bedroom 4 years ago in St. Catharines, Ontario, I'm just going to start talking to athletes. Why not? And I'm like, screw it. I can do this. Dude, I had no formal training. I had 2 subpar microphones. I was ripping my iPhone to record it. Here we are now, Cape Cod, 193 episodes in, having talked with the world's strongest man, incredible athletes from the NHL, NBA, NFL. Dude, anything you want to get after, if you do it with pure ambition and pure intelligence, intensity, living like today might be your last day, dude, anything is achievable. I don't want to be cliche, but if you pursue your passion, if you're a Joel Embiid and enjoy the process, respect the process. I'm butchering that.
Trust the process, baby.
I don't know how I goofed that one up. It's those cliches, those stereotypes are there for a reason, and I think I, even after this 45 minutes, am fired up just to keep getting after it with pure ambition.
I love it, brother.
Yeah. Yo, appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Dope.
This was
awesome. And first of many.
First of many.
We'll get back down to Austin.
Yes, sir.
We'll chop it up. We'll get in the Pure Ambition studio. We'll maybe bring in a couple boys.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's the pod.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I wanted to give you all a heads up too that I launched a free community on the Upspace app where you can join, ask me questions, connect with like-minded individuals, follow my 4-week running and strength training program that has some dedicated mobility sessions in there as well, so that we can all optimize our health and fitness together. So if you're interested, head over to the App Store, download the Upspace app, and join the Pure Ambition community today. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.